Junction. This is the second part of making up this end scene here. If I back off a bit, you can see the bit I'm trying to do, pretty much in between the two black uprights. So we're gradually working at it. To be perfectly honest, I'm not really sure. I've got some ideas, but I'm sort of playing it a bit by ear, as it were, and trying to see what happens. As you can see, I've put the fence in, or partly put it in, and I'm trying to get a fade away sort of situation where it blends into the back scene. Not really sure how I'm going to do it. I'm trying to build up the base in front of it so that it fades away and is hidden by greenery. But I'll plod on and see how we get on. So see you when I've done a little bit more. Okay, I've done a little bit more, and unfortunately my creative juices have run out for the day, or more likely my scenic materials run out, so I need to order some more. So I guess that'll be a couple of days at least until I get it, probably middle of the week hopefully. So I can't really do any more. I don't want to continue with some of it missing, some of the materials I want missing, because you can't blend it in, and if you try and do too much with stuff you haven't got and add stuff to it later, it doesn't look right, I don't think. So anyway, I've put the fence in position, I've weathered it, and I've created the path at the minute. I'm not sure what it looks like on the video, but looks alright at the moment. It's drying out because it's still wet, so it's too light at the moment, and of course hasn't been weathered or hasn't had any weeds or anything growing on it. And to be honest, you won't really see most of it because it'll be hidden, and that's the whole idea. It blends into the distance, as do the fences. And hopefully, although I haven't finished this yet, you can see what I was trying to aim at, which is the fence disappearing behind trees, and or not trees really, foliage, so that you don't have to have the fence all the way along, because I think, you know, to be honest, if it was around the whole layout, I think it would be a bit too much, and it gets a bit expensive as well. So I've faded it out into the background, but of course you can't actually see it going into the background because it's hidden by the foliage. I can't continue with that, as I've already mentioned, so I think I'll leave it here and come back to you later when I've got some more materials and show you what I've done next. Okay, I've done a little bit more. As you can see, I've done along the back there. It's still drying really, the glue's in it, so hopefully it'll dry a little bit darker, I think, when the glue's completely dried. Obviously it's a mixture of PVA and water, and I've done this little bit over here, the raised bit, so that that particular fence disappears behind a raised bit of ground, and the path does similar. I've left this bit here in front of the path open so that you can see the path the other side of the fence, so I've left the foliage pretty close, low there, so you can see it, but then it disappears behind foliage, and even from quite a sharp angle I think it looks quite good, the way it just disappears and gets narrower. One thing I did find, I'm so used to doing scenery in OO gauge that it's very difficult to take get your mind around the difference in the scales. For instance, I had to move the far crossing gate back a bit because I just put it too close to the railway really. When you thought about it, it was probably about 3 foot away from the rail, which was fine. Where I'd got it was pretty good for OO gauge, but for O gauge it needed to be quite a bit further away. Probably the same distance as this side, but I couldn't move it that much because a lot of it was already glued down, so I managed to move it a bit further back. And I guess with perspective that's not too bad, but that is a thing you have to sort of, or I have to think of it. And as I say, this is the first O gauge scenery I've really had an attempt at. And that little hill there, obviously in O gauge that would be quite a large hill, but in O gauge it's pretty much just a raised bit of ground. But it gives the same effect that I wanted, that it hides where the fence is going and the path was going. So I'm quite pleased with that. I've also done this little corner here, mainly because when you look at the angle like this, you can see all scenery rather than the plain bit of green. One thing I am pleased about, there was a little hump where the two baseboards joined, and that was pretty much because by the time you go around the whole area it was difficult to get everything completely level. And I think what happened is when I moved this baseboard on this side, because at one point, obviously, I don't know if you can remember a long way back, that I had a sort of elongated helix here, and there were different levels and slopes and goodness knows what else, and when I put it all back together to make it flat for this O gauge layout, I was a bit lazy. I should have really relaid the whole lot, but I was a little bit lazy, and for some reason this board here was a little bit not sure it was higher or lower I think it was than the other board on the other side, so it caused a bit of a hump, and I'm being a bit lazy. I didn't really want to relay the whole thing, especially as I started doing the scenery, so I thought of a way around it. What I did was I cut out the foam that was underneath it and pretty much laid the rail on with no foam. So at this point here where it went over the hump, previously it was actually suspended in the air, but it was level. So what I've done is I've filled it in with ballast, so this bit of rail here is prototypical really being suspended by the ballast, or held level by the ballast. So hopefully, and that's pretty level now, so hopefully that's got round the problem. I've also done a bit here on this edge here, and just waiting for that to dry. I might go a bit further along to probably where that end of that raised bit I've done. And I've just done that because the backboard was a little bit higher there and I didn't want the foliage to disappear underneath it, so I've raised it a little bit. And of course I've got this field here to do, and I probably won't get round to weathering the track just yet because I don't particularly want to get my spray gun out and everything just to do this short bit of track, relatively short bit of track. I might wait till a lot more needs weathering, so I'll continue doing this foliage and see you, show you a bit later. Okay, I've done a little more. I've done all the foliage around the fence for the field, a bit more heavy foliage in that corner, and I've finished off for the moment the other side of the railway track. Obviously it's all a bit wet at the moment because I've done it all in one go, or I'm doing it all in one go, so I'll carry on. I might do the bit between the tracks now and have a little bash at the field as well, and I'll show you what it looks like when I've finished. Well, I've just about finished all of the scenery now. I've just finished it off. It's still sort of wet and drying, the glue's still drying, so I need to come back and give it a bit of a tidy up and finishing touches and touch-ups and etc. But yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how I've done. I've now just, obviously I've done the bit in the middle of the tracks, so a mixture of woodland cynics, different grades, and a bit of static grass. I just wanted to start introducing static grass into the picture because I wanted this field to be static grass, but I thought I'd feed it in gradually. So as I say, I started between the tracks, and then I've done the field mostly with static grass. I've put a bush in the middle and put a bit of sort of muddy area around it. You probably noticed beforehand I had a few humps in it with the foam just to raise the grass or the area so it's not completely flat. So they look pretty good, and yeah, quite pleased with it really. Say I've got a few finishing touches to do, but I want to let it dry overnight now and see how it's done, and I'll come back and finish off this little video tomorrow and then publish it. So see you later. Okay, I've finished for this video now. There is a little bit more to tidy up and clean up, but it's gonna take a little bit longer than I thought, because I think I mentioned it before, it seems that the gravel, or the ballast rather, takes that much longer to dry. Whether it's because it's a lot thicker, or whether it's because it's a bit cooler up here, or whether it's because it's sort of almost airtight up here, so it takes a bit of time for the moisture to evaporate. But whatever way, whatever the cause, it's still a bit tacky, so I can't really hoover and clean up and tidy up the ballast and make sure it's all laying properly, because whenever you try and touch it, you cause more problems than you clear up. So I'm going to leave it another few days and come back to it, but I thought I'd sort of publish the video at this stage anyway, because to be honest, it won't look a lot different. I need to hoover the gravel up and some bits and pieces, but as I said before, I think it'll cause more problems than anything if I leave it too long, if I do it too quickly rather. So this is it. This is the finished article, pretty much for this end. There's some other bits and pieces I'm going to do. I mean, obviously the cars are all shiny brand new. I'd like to weather those a bit and perhaps put a few more people around, and perhaps some cattle or animals of some sort in the field, but that's sort of finishing the scene. But the overall effect is pretty much as I wanted it, and I'm really pleased with it. It blends quite nicely into the background, so I'm pleased with that. The foliage and the grass all look quite nice, so yeah, and the concrete of course, quite pleased with the way it's come out. So as I said, I'll post this up now, and perhaps you let me know what you think. So bye for now, and thanks for watching. Bye.